Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 294 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels, coming from Sandusky, Ohio, and I'm thrilled that you're listening to this episode, and I'm thrilled that you're checking it out over on YouTube if that's where you happen to be located. I'm actually recording this intro a couple of weeks after I did the initial interview, so with continuity, I had to make sure I had the same shirt on as I did during the interview, and I initially had the wrong shirt on, so I had to go change really quickly to make sure I looked the same, even my glasses, because I have two different pairs of glasses as well. In a moment, I'll be sitting down with Dean Vasic from the Hashtag Kangaroos podcast, and we are going to be doing our look back at 2023 for North Melbourne and what went right, what went wrong, uh, where were the green shoots, the progress that was seen, if you will, with the club. And we kind of speculated what was going to be going on, possibly in the draft. We discussed, I believe, Harley Reid as well. Was he possibly going to get there, or would they be better served by adding multiple uh, quality young players rather than just one? But before I jump into the discussion with Dean, I wanted to take a couple of moments here. First off, um, I wanted to take this moment at the outset to wish Barry Cheatley and his wonderful wife, Barbara, a very happy 59th wedding anniversary. Uh, I had the honor of sitting down and talking with Barry for over 3 hours, a little over a year ago. Very gracious of his time. That's episodes 196 and 197 of the podcast, and just an absolute gentleman. So many great stories that he shared with me as well. Uh, and I'm hoping that next year, if everything goes as I'm planning right now, I do plan on being in Australia for about a month next year. And I'm absolutely hoping one of the things that I have on my list, of course, as we know, one, go on a tour of the Vegemite factory. Okay. Two, see a Cats game in person. I do want to meet Mr. Cheatley. I would love to meet his family as well. Just an absolute peach of a gentleman. He's been very gracious with his time, has helped me set up more than one interview. And I do hope that the two of you had an absolutely terrific day surrounded by friends, family, and just a whole lot of fun. Okay. 59 years is amazing. I mean, I'm 60, so you've been married my entire lifetime, and well, almost within a very short period of time there. But again, congratulations. And I truly, truly hope you had a wonderful day. And it's my pleasure to say that even though I've not met you in person yet, to say that I do kind of know you. We exchanged several emails over the last year as well. So just an absolutely wonderful guy. And if you are a Roos supporter, or even if you're just a footy supporter in general, you can't help but have nothing but great thoughts about Barry Cheatley. And his family's been very gracious to me online as well. Now, folks, I'm also working towards uh, still recording several of those most memorable game episodes. And if you happen to have a game that you're never going to forget, maybe it's one you participated in, maybe it's one that you saw. Doesn't have to be an AFL game. Could be a game that you played down at your club level, your local community club, and maybe there's just a story that you want to get out. I would love to help share that story, get it out there for my listeners, because I love learning about the game. I love learning about the local aspect of it as well. Again, that's another one of the things that I want to do when I'm in Australia next year, is actually go visit as many of these local footy clubs as I possibly can. Now, again, I'm going to be somewhat hamstrung or limited by my ability to transport myself from place to place. Um, I cannot wait until a fixture comes out. I believe it's supposed to come out on the 14th of November, which is in just about a week. It's actually less than about a week now. And that is where I'm going to be able to start planning with earnest what it is that I want to do next year. So I'm still debating, do I want to try to get to Adelaide to see a game at the Adelaide Oval, or do I want to make the trip to Tasmania and try to catch a game at either Launceston or Hobart to see the Hawks or the Roos play. Just so many options out there, and so many other things that I want to see that are cultural type things that are not necessarily footy related. But of course, I want to experience as much footy as I possibly can, and hopefully meet as many of you who are listeners who happen to be in the different areas where I'm going to be. Now, I don't have the budget right now to travel throughout the country, so I'm not going to be able to necessarily be able to fly to Perth or up to Sydney or to Brisbane or travel inland. I have decided, though, that maybe one of those goals that I want to have in my life is actually to make that circular road trip around Australia. I think that would be fun to do. I've got about 4 years before I retire, and maybe that's something that I get the opportunity to do and just go and meet as many people as I can, experience footy all over the country as well. And I've been listening to a podcast, and I'm going to apologize here. I'm going to look it up on my phone, but it's a gentleman who I've had, and the name is escaping me right now on the at this moment in time, and I feel bad for that. But it's called the Regional 250, and it is it's a series that one of my previous guests, Neil Butler, does, where he talks to individuals that live throughout Australia and some of the smaller shires and such throughout Australia. And if you want to learn about Australia and, off the beaten path, if you will, outside of the major metropolitan areas, this is a fascinating podcast, and I love checking it out simply when I go out for a walk. I listen to a lot of true crime. I listen to a lot of footy podcasts, some political things, but this one is just one of those that I just get to just kind of step away from all of those kinds of things, and it's as though I'm visiting that community. And he was talking to someone in an episode that I listened to just recently that was somebody that lived, and they talk about, what's the closest capital city that you live to, and they were an 18-hour drive from Brisbane. So they lived up near, I think they lived near to Cairns, up in that area. They were a little south of Cairns, I believe they said. So, I'm thinking maybe making that drive around the entire country. I think that's the M1 that circles the country. I think it would be an awful lot of fun to do that. And then, maybe take the train from the south up to Darwin afterwards. Just spend a few months there doing that. I think that would be an awesome, awesome journey to do, and be able to talk to people about life, about footy, about all sorts of things there. So again, if you got a great story about a game that you're never going to forget, please reach out to me on my website, ayankonthefooty.com, or by email, ayankonthefooty@gmail.com. And if you like the podcast, you want to help me out, you can certainly click on that Buy Me a Coffee button over on my website. Help out that way. Anything there that comes in is going to go into running the website, running the podcast itself. If you want to help out with the trip, trust me, I'm not going to say no. Okay. This is not a cheap trip that I'm going to be taking there. Almost makes me want to, if you want to go back to some old school music there, say, I want you to want me for cheap trip. Cheap trick. Yeah, there you go. Live at Budokan. But I digress a little bit there. So let's go ahead and jump into my chat with Dean Vasic, and we're going to talk all things Roos, and a lot of fun. Dean is an absolute lover of all things Roos, so I think you're going to enjoy this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by my guest again, Dean Vasic from the Hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Dean helped me preview the Roos earlier this year. I believe it was episode 238, if I'm not mistaken. And Dean, thanks for getting up so early, because it is only about 6:30 a.m. your time, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct, Craig. No, thanks for having me. Thanks for asking. Happy to come on again and obviously do a review of the season that didn't go according to the script when we did the preview.
No, it didn't. I think, if I recall correctly, I don't think you were buying or planning to buy finals tickets quite yet, but you were hoping for a better result than what we did see.
Yeah, I think I might have predicted about 6 to 8 wins or something like that. We'll start off all right, but it fell apart.
Yeah, you start off 2-0, and you have to be thinking to yourself, let me ask you, what are you thinking after round 2? And you're sitting there at 2-0, you got 2 wins in the books, you're up towards the top of the ladder. What's going through your mind at that point in time?
Oh, look, even after the next 2 weeks, I think we lost to Hawthorn and then we lost to Carlton Good Friday, and we're quite competitive in those games. Mm-hmm. So I was still quite bullish at 2-2. Like, I thought, this is going quite well. And then it fell apart pretty quickly after that. I think we played Brisbane the week after and we got absolutely smashed. I think they had 33 marks inside 50, which was a record or something like that. And then, you could sort of see the signs after that Clarkson seemed to be struggling. Obviously there was an incident in the Port Adelaide game a few weeks after that where half-time, Apparently, he wasn't too happy with the players. I'm not too sure. I mean, there was reports that he was throwing chairs and so forth. And then after that, he took indefinite break, sort of saying he was struggling with his mental health. But going back to your original question, 2-0. Yeah, I thought this is going a lot better than I thought. We seem to have a good system in place. The recruits that he got in seem to be fitting in really well, especially Griffin Logue. Daniel Howe seemed to be playing a role for the club as well at the time. So, yeah, things were going pretty well. But, over time, it fell apart quite quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah, it did. And it was and I don't know if this is the case or not, but was it the longest losing streak I don't think it's the longest losing streak in the history of the AFL, VFL, but it's got to be up there close to
I think there was a team, University in the 1900s, that lost a lot in a row. So, yeah, okay. I mean, we obviously lost 20 in a row, and that's probably, be right up there, I think. I didn't really look too far into it. I think we've lost more than 20 in a row back in the 1920s when we first formed in the AFL. But 20 in a row in a wins and losses based industry, it's not really acceptable, I guess. So obviously we got the win in the last round of the year. So
right, yeah. And that was a club that I did tip to play finals this year in Gold Coast, and they didn't quite get over the hump. This year, they had some good things that went on, but still they dropped more games than they probably should have this year, I think. But I went back and I looked at your fixture for this year, and there was 5 games that you lost by a total of 31 points. Yeah. So basically, you lost 5 games by an average of 1 goal. So you were in a lot of games. So your prediction of 6 to 8 wins this year, you were probably closer than you thought you were. It's just that you lost. You had some breaks that didn't quite go your way in a few of these games where you came up just a hair short. And a couple of these were under a goal. So it was so what exactly went wrong, do you think? And then we'll look at the glass half full part. So let's look at the glass half empty right now. But if you had to go back and put together a small list, and what are the things that you look at and you go, well, that didn't quite work out the way we were hoping?
Yeah, obviously the Clarkson situation was affecting him a lot more than we thought. It was pretty much, I think it was late November when that came out, or around November 23, and it affected him a lot. Even his coaching in the early days, it was a bit unusual. The things were even in the Fremantle game where he was on the boundary calling for holding the ball. It was out of character for him. He just didn't seem himself. Obviously. Yeah, it was affecting him a lot, and he was affecting his coaching performance. He's probably losing a few of the players as well. And like anything in life, over time, losing becomes a habit. As winning it becomes a habit. You see Collingwood on the opposite side of the spectrum, and they won a premiership, full credit to them. But a lot of close games, they always seem to win them because they've got that belief in their system, belief in each other. Whereas we're quite the opposite. Yeah, there was a game, I think, in round 10 or round 9 against the Sydney Swans. I don't know if you remember that, but there was an incident a minutes ago where we used too many rotations. They got a free kick in front of goal, won a game. And I think if we won that, we would have had the same record as the Swans, who went on to play finals. So they obviously built from that, and we went the opposite direction. We had to get an interim coach in Brett Ratton as well during the course of the year for 7-8 weeks. He did an admirable job, but he's an interim coach. He was only part-time at the club anyway.
Right.
Yeah, so things just seem to not work out.
Yeah, and as far as Brett Ratton's concerned, I still think he got the long end of a short stick from St. Kilda with regards to the whole contract situation with him when he was dismissed from St. Kilda, where he didn't get paid out his full contract. I was flabbergasted by that, where he only got paid like 6 months of it. I mean, and I talked about that in a previous episode where if a team dismisses an owner or a team dismisses a coach before their contract is up, they're obligated here in sports in the U.S. to pay out that contract because they committed to it. And somebody like Brett Ratton may have made financial commitments of his own based upon the prospects of that guaranteed or that income that he was going to be having there. And I don't know if he bought a new house or put on addition or built a pool or send his kid to university or something, and I know he lost a child, but but there, I just thought he really got shafted there with regards to his contract situation with them. But he got thrust into a really tough situation because he was coming in, with, and if I'm not mistaken, he was at Hawthorn under Clarko previously, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seemed like a natural fit, and I know he's left the Roos. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he not go back to Hawthorn? I think.
Yeah, that's right. He's gone out of coaching. I think he wanted to go into like football management.
Okay.
And there wasn't a position available at North Melbourne where there was one at Hawthorn, obviously. So he decided to go down that path. I think coaching has probably gone past him now. So, yeah, good luck to him. He's obviously got shafted at Carlton as well. When he left them, he got up to finals and they got Mick Malthouse after that, and the club seemed to fall apart there for a number of years. So he's had a really tough period over the last 10, 15 years, Brett Rutten, and he's carried himself quite well, obviously with the death of his child as well. Who died in a car crash. He's had a lot going on.
Very honorable gentleman. Having heard him interview, just a lot of positivity there. But are you? When you went back to, and I think it was actually round 1, if I'm not mistaken, that and I'm pulling up the club from that first round there. If I'm not mistaken, they sat, Todd Goldstein was not named to the club in round 1, which, as a longtime Roos supporter, where you're looking at that thinking, okay, what's going on here? I mean, this is a little strange that we don't have this guy who's, about to play, I think, game 300, with the club, who's not in, close to it at that point in time, that is not named here. I mean, and this club probably needed as much veteran leadership as they could get. And they were getting it, I'm sure, during practice and training and that sort of thing. But, in a game situation, and yes, they won, but were you a little surprised that he didn't get named back in round 1?
Yeah, well, it was between him and Tristan Sherry, and the club went down a youth path. And apparently Tristan Sherry was flying in pre-season, so I could certainly understand it. And we had a fairly top-heavy team. We still had Charlie Comben back then, a young key forward prospect. Hugh Greenwood was named. He was going to be the second ruck. And then halfway through the first quarter, I think Tristan Sherry broke his leg, and Hugh Greenwood had to ruck for the rest of the game. He came in straight after that. And one of the, we'll go to it eventually, I'm sure, when Todd Goldstein has left. But one of the reasons why he left was because he didn't want to get in the way of Tristan Sherry for next season. So, which is understandable.
That's certainly fair. Yeah, and I know he's, we might as well mention it since we've brought him up here. It looks like he is planning on heading to Essendon to reunite with Brad Scott for at least a year. And he's kind of in a similar situation where you've got somebody who's rehabbing, with Sam Draper coming off of some major groin surgery from if I remember correctly, that so there's gonna be an opportunity for him to maybe be the second ruck there, but certainly provide some tutelage to these youngsters as they're growing into their game here in the coming years, because this very likely could be his last year.
I think he signed a 2-year contract as well. I think we're probably only going to offer him 1 year, probably with a coaching role after that. Like, I don't think he's going to play 2 more years. He's maybe got 10, 15 good AFL games left in him. You talked about Draper. Apparently, he did have groin surgery and he's in doubt for round 1 next year. He's going to miss a whole pre-season, which is quite important. And the other ruckman they've got is Brian, who's a bit injury prone as well. Apparently a really good prospect. I don't know much about him. I mean, he's there as depth and cover for next year. And the year after probably will go into coaching, whether he's coaching with Brad Scott or another club. I'm not too sure.
So what signs, and again, it was a tumultuous offseason last year with the Horn Francis situation, moving on to Port Adelaide. And I certainly understand that Roos supporters were probably a little bitter towards him for wanting to move on. It's one of the things that American sports fans, I think, tend to embrace much more readily than Australian sports fans. Is we don't have a problem booing. I know, because I know it's all, every time I see it happening in sport there's always somebody in a tweet thread or a message board or something that's talking about how it's, it's kind of uncouth or something, that we don't do that sort of thing, leave it. And I learned a vocab word a couple of weeks ago. Leave it to the seppos from the US to do that. I remember I learned that term and I had never heard it before. Now I've heard it about a half dozen times in the last few weeks. So it's been amazing how I heard it and I was like, it's everywhere now. So, but we I think you certainly have another, good group of youngsters that have come in this year. And if nothing else, if you could figure out how to just like hit the fast forward button and get through the next couple of seasons to see where this club's going to be in, say, 2026. I mean, you'd almost love to do that, but but it's you still got to battle through things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a big problem for the football club, and one of the reasons why we've been on the bottom the last 4 years, is our development of young guys. We seem to get players that start off their careers off quite well, 18, 19 years old, and then when they get to 22, 23, they're pretty much almost done, and we have to move on from them. We've seen a few delistings this year of players that are 24, 25, 22, 23 that have been in the system for quite a while, and they've been delisted. So we've got a new development coach that has come in from Werribee, quite highly rated, and so hopefully we can get to those players when, like someone like a Curtis Taylor who's at 60 odd games now, out of contract next year. We really want him to take the next step, and that's what's really been lacking. We've got some good youngsters, like you said. We've got the Harry Shears or George Wardlaws, a number of others, 19, 20-year-olds that look quite good. Josh Goder, another one. And we really want, when they get 23, 24, we really want them hitting their ceiling. So development has been a real letdown for the football club over a period of time now, and that's the reason why we won 13 games in about the last 80 or something like that. So, that's what we've really got to get right.
Yeah, Harry Sheasel will be all of 19 years old next week.
Yeah, well, there you go.
On Friday the 13th next week, he's going to be hitting his 19th birthday. And Wardlaw just turned 19 a couple of months ago, and it's Goder is just 20. I mean, it's there's a lot of good young talent there, and it just needs the time to. Well, let me ask you this, because you said they come in at 18, 19, and they're kind of done by 22. 20, 21, 22 years old. They're kind of, I don't know if they're burned out, but what's leading to that? Is that the development that you brought in this new coach from Werribee then? Is that what's causing that, where you're kind of flaming out some of these young players?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Look, I'm not internally at the club, but we've had a lot of part-time coaches, which we've sort of stopped now. Like they're working 2 to 3 times a week. We've sort of stopped that as well, whether that's hindered their development, getting different messages from too many people. We've had a development coach there, Gavin Brown, for 10 years, head of football development, and I'm not too sure if any of this blame goes to him. I don't know him personally. We've got new assistant coaches that have come in from other clubs, quite highly rated, young guys as well, probably in their mid-30s, maybe late 30s. That are just Barlow from Werribee Football Club, who coaches Werribee, coached them to a grand final in the VFL this year. So, look, obviously very highly rated. Seems to talk well, that he seems to work quite well with the young guys. So, look, I couldn't tell you personally what goes on inside the football club.
You kind of broke up there for a second. So you broke up there for a second.
But,
so you kind of froze up there for a second. So you were saying that you're not inside the club there, which, I mean, none of us really have that kind of access at all, which, but I think even in footy standings, footy fans seem to have a little bit more insight than even, than sports fans here, because, the whole membership thing, there's a lot more access. I think they're a lot more open with their supporters than sports clubs here in North America happen to be, which it'd be kind of nice if that sort of thing happened here. But, I'm just pulling up the contract situations for the clubs here right now. But looking, how thrilled were you with these youngsters? I mean, because Wardlaw coming in, Sheasel was just a breath of fresh air. That had to lessen the blow of Horn Francis. Yeah, I almost said LDU, and only reason I was thinking LDU is because he was one of the players on my fantasy team, and he kept missing games and such. And I had a disastrous fantasy year this year because the app was not working on my computer properly, so I couldn't actually select the players that I wanted to. So I was there trying to draft the players I wanted, and it would not allow me to actually select the thing. So ended up auto picking for me, and I was there trying to make picks, and I lost my first 7 games of the year. Then I came back and won like 6 or 7 in a row. But and then I got locked out of the account for some reason. So I have no idea how I finished. But yeah, he ended up being my number 1 pick this year. But back, Wardlaw, Sheasel, just seeing the continued growth of Nick Larkey, who I can't think of any club that would not love to have that young man wearing their jumper. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of good green shoots that are growing there. It's just that we got to get that growth, got to get some other blades of grass to come up along with them. Yeah. I think you froze up there for a second. So we got to get those other blades of grass to come up with, the Larkies and the Sheasels and the Wardlaws. It's are you more positive now than you were at the beginning of 2023?
I think you have to be. I mean, I just felt like a lot of things went wrong off the field, and I mean, obviously we get a couple of high draft picks now. We should be able to get pick 3 for a band 1 compensation for Ben Mackay. The free agency system is quite ludicrous over here. Yeah, you got compensation for losing a player. When you got the ability to match a restricted free agent bid is quite ludicrous. But that's a topic for another time. But we should get a couple of picks early. The AFL have given us an assistance package as well that gives us an end of first rounder, pick 19, and I think we got Port Adelaide's pick 14 as well. So there's a lot of assets up the top. I'm not too sure, and we've got a couple of players that are going to come from other clubs as well, so that have already committed that they want to come across. So I reckon deals probably might even be done today.
Who are those players that because you kind of got garbled there a little bit because we're only a couple miles away from each other, but who are those players that have committed to come over to the Roos? Because I was looking for that and I had not seen anything yet in terms of who's made that commitment to make the jump there.
So we've got 2. An outside player at Carlton, Zach Fisher. He's played 100-odd games, 25 years old. Got a little bit of speed. Looking at play on the wing, midfield, half-back. So he'll add a bit of depth. And Dylan Stevens, a former high draft pick that the Sydney Swans, played 40-odd games. Had a good grand final in 2022 for a team that struggled. So he's been a fringe player at the Swans for quite a while. Probably fill up that other wing spot. So, yeah.
I'm going to editorialize here for just a minute and say he was about the only one that had a good game for the Swans during the 2022 grand final then.
Yeah. No, fair enough too. Yeah. No, it probably was. Yeah.
So the compensation package, if you will, the assistance package, it's not terribly popular with a lot of people. I just watched again, and I had read a little piece about Chris Scott's comments back on September 25th before the grand final about it. But I had not watched the footage of him on AFL 360, and I watched it about an hour ago. And he was less than pleased and less than flattering of the AFL's decision to award additional picks to the Roos, was likening it to what happened back in 2004 with the Hawks in the draft, where they were able to bring in Roughhead and Jordan Lewis and some guy named Buddy Franklin. I don't know whatever happened to him, But that they brought all three of them in like the first 7 picks of the draft, and he's basically saying, here we are, we're going to turn around and hand Clarko all of these assets again, and we saw what he did with them the last time that we gave, that the league gave him assets like this. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw his comments, and what as a Roos supporter, what is your feedback to folks who think that the Roos should not be getting this assistance?
Yeah, I kind of agree with him because there's no system in place. It's just like you ask for an assistance from the AFL because we've been on the bottom for the last 4 years through moves from previous administration, and it's got to be our fault currently as well because obviously development is as we talked about before. It's stupid. There's no. Then they've got a commission that sit in the room and just decide, all right, we'll give them this, and that's basically it. I agree. Like to a degree with Chris Scott, but every draft is compromised in the AFL as well through fathers, sons. Like it would have been nice if we had access to Nick Dacos. Instead of getting Jason, there's been a number of others. Jamari Ugle-Hagan was an NGA prospect, a few years ago. That was, number 1 pick. He would have been nice as a key forward as well. So, I could certainly understand the frustration.
Yeah. Put him next to Larkey. Wow. I'm just fantasizing about him next to Larkey there. That's a nice decade worth of, probably 1,000 goals between the two of them.
And then you got Nick Dacos as well running through the midfield. It would be nice to get him. Obviously he's the clear number 1 pick from that draft.
Right.
Really, pretty much you would have won a Brownlow this year if obviously didn't get an injury towards the end of the year. So every draft is compromised, and I can certainly understand the frustration from other clubs, but like back 20 years ago when Clarkson first started, it was a lot simpler. If you won less than 5 games, you get an extra draft pick in the top 5. Whereas now there's no written rule. It's just a decision. Like West Coast, if they struggle next year, they can ask for assistance package. Gold Coast got one 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, and they got a lot of assets. They got Noah Anderson, Matt Rowell, first 2 picks.
Yeah, because they were teammates, in their formative years as well. So they've gone on, playing professionally with one another as well. It's so I in theory then should a club, and I'm this is definitely tongue in cheek here, but should a club like the Cats be able to go to the AFL and say to them, we're a really, really old side. Maybe we could use an extra pick because we've only got pick 7 this year. Could we get another pick at 25 or something to where we could maybe bring in another youngster to help, lower our age profile just a little bit? I'm kidding about that, but it's, but as you said, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no rule because, who knows? Maybe somebody would say, yeah, you guys are kind of old. Let's go ahead and do. I don't think it's a great idea. The NBA has a unique situation that they use with the draft lottery, if you will. I don't know if that's a solution, but again, that flies in the face. Then, the one thing that I really like, that I find unique, I guess I like it, but is the whole father-son thing. But it puts some clubs a little bit behind the 8 ball. It puts right now, especially like a GWS and a Gold Coast behind the 8 ball, because their clubs are not mature enough in terms of the time that they've been existing to have, players who could be, parts of the, like a father-son type situation. And I actually hypothesized in an episode a couple of weeks ago. I said, well, what's to say that if you get a phenomenal player that, plans on having a lot of kids, why don't he and the wife go to a fertility clinic and, give birth to septuplets, and you could put, 7 or 8 kids from that same player on the same side then, because, the father-son rule. You could have, a third of your starting 18 could all be from the same family at one time.
Yeah, like someone like Gary Ablett or something like that. Yeah, he's got
Yeah,
good genes. Obviously, his father was a great footballer, and he was one of the best ever. So
yeah,
yeah, have 4 kids. But obviously, there's no guarantees. There's obviously NGA prospects as well. I think Gold Coast are going to get 2 top 10 picks this year. I think there's a key forward that would go quite early. I can't remember his name for the life of me, and there's a couple others up there as well. So it is what it is. It is compromised. It's not a simple system. Look, it's a lot simpler in the NBA. You just draft the top prospects, from college and even Europe, I guess. Like I look at Doncic or something like that. But it's a lot simpler over there, less complicated. It's a very complicated system over here, that's for
yeah.
sure.
It certainly is. It's I'm trying to pull up to see if there's anything that's going to show up about that the NGA stuff here. I was looking for the name of that young person there. Um, so looking at the at the draft capital that you happen to have right now, as you mentioned, you got picks 2, 14, and 19. 2 was the pick that you got from this year. 14 is the Port Adelaide pick. And do you still have other picks coming from Port Adelaide besides this one then? Do you still have any future ones that are coming from, or is that it for the
Yeah,
Port
well,
Francis
obviously
trade?
got 2 end of first rounders next year, the part of the assistance package,
Right.
but that could change. So
Yeah.
we have to pretty much effectively trade them this year because they've said if you're going all right, Nick, if you do okay next year, then we can strip you of those 2. And effectively, we've got to use them this year. So, which we'll probably use in the trade period. I would have to think. So and you look at this stage. There's a reporter that's pretty much said you're going to get definitely going to get pick 3 as part of the Ben Mackay compensation.
Mm-hmm.
For him going to Essendon. So pick 2, 3, 14, 19. Obviously got our own for next year, a pick 19 and 20 next year as well, end of first rounder. So a lot of, I think we've got so 2, 3, 4. So we've probably got about 7 first round draft picks over the next 2 years.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing. And so let me while there is kind of a consensus number 1 player in this draft in Harley Reid. It's the young man that everybody has been talking about, and that the Eagles now hold that number 1 pick. And I have no idea if Harley Reid has been looking at any real estate ads on Zillow or anything like that, or realestate.com.au in the Perth area. But do you think that when the trade period ends, that the Roos are going to be holding that number 1 pick?
If I had to say now probably not. I think we'll go in with pick 2 and 3. I think they've changed the rules where first-year players get 3-year contracts now, whereas previously 2 years. So he's definitely guaranteed 3 years at West Coast. He did talk yesterday on a Gettable podcast, which is talking about young prospects, and he kind of had a dig at Jason Francis for leaving after 1 year, which suggests to me, and he sort of said, look, I'm happy to play anywhere. Dig at Jason Francis for leaving Port Adelaide after 1 year when it's only a 40-minute trip by plane to Adelaide from Melbourne. He sort of kind of had a little bit of a dig at him there. So it kind of suggests to me that he's happy to move to West Coast and give it a try for at least 2 or 3 years, I would have to think. So I think he's obviously been talking to him, and he's probably quite happy to go across there because, he's a generational talent. And West Coast need midfielders. We're probably at a stage now where we've got a lot of midfielders at the moment. That's probably an area of the grounds like LDU. We probably don't need many more. We kind of need to feel around the edges and get some key position prospects as well.
Yeah. Well, I know you're certainly gonna have a pretty significant hole in your defensive structure with Mackay heading out.
Yeah.
But it's so have you looked at the list of prospects this year to think who would I love to see coming in with that number 2 pick? Do you sit down and do your own little fantasy draft and try to figure out what might be happening with each of the picks that you have? Because you have a a plethora, in terms of like the point value, if you will, the total points. You have even more than, West Coast with the number one pick. Looking at this is from zerohanger.com. Your picks total up to 5,364 points on whatever structure that they use to measure that, and theirs are at 5,219. And Port Adelaide is at 805, but they have Jason Horne-Francis now, so that's what. And of course, yeah, they may end up losing a few of those picks if they're going to bring in that young man Radigalia from the Cats. So we'll see how that goes. But have you thought about who you'd really love to see wearing the Roo next year?
Yeah, I've been in dialogue with Siobhan Rowe, who I have on regularly on the show. She's on top of that sort of thing with the young talent. There is talk about Daniel Curtin, a key position defender from Western Australia, who looks okay. He's about 196, 197 centimetres. He moves quite well, good user of football. There's a player in Melbourne, Colby McKercher, who'll probably play off the halfback flank, a rebounding defender. He is playing midfield there, but in the under-18s competition, I should say. He looks okay. There's a pressuring small forward who's reminds me a little bit of a Tom Papley that if we got pick 2 and 3, that'll probably be right in the discussions, I would have to think, for those picks 2 and 3.
Okay. So, we talked about how you seem to be, have more upbeat right now about where the club is. But once the trade period has ended and, the draft that will be coming up a couple of weeks after that, what will I'm going to be so bold to say that North Melbourne is going to get the headline in the paper that day. What is the headline in the paper going to say about the results for the Roos during the trade deadline and the draft?
I think they'll be optimistic. There's going to be, we've already signed a delisted free agent as well now, who's a key position defender in South Australia, played for Glenelg, Toby Pink. Obviously, we're going to get Fisher and Stevens. Hopefully, we don't pay overs for those two individuals. And we'll probably fill in a couple more as well. I think we'll look at least at another key position defender from another club and look at a small forward as well. So I think people will be fairly optimistic, but every team and even media sort of seem to overblow trade periods and so forth and think every team's won, especially. And, every time there's a draft here as well, there's always prospects. There's always one in the top 5 that doesn't work out for whatever reason. After the draft period, it seems like every team's won as well. So time will tell when we get these players. Halfway through next year, we'll have an indication of how it's all going. So, I'm not going to get jumping for joy and jumping on rooftops when the trade period's over. I'll probably have a good indication halfway through next year of how the trade period has gone for this year.
Okay. So it'll be early December that we'll probably get to round 1 of the comp released, and then hopefully within a week or two after that we'll get the entire fixture released, because that's when I'm going to actually get to start working on my plan for coming there next footy season, because that's what my goal has been. Although world events being what they are may throw a bit of a monkey wrench in that as of this point in time, because who the hell knows what's going to be going on in the world this time next year, or within the next 10 months or so. I have no clue. I hope I can completely just say you blew it way out of proportion. Unfortunately, I don't know. But if you were drawing up the fixture, who were the Roos playing round 1 next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd probably like to play Essendon, to be honest with you, straight off the bat. That's a big rivalry game. We don't like each other too much. I'd like to get them straight up off the bat, get a big crowd as well on a Saturday night or whenever. Friday night would be ideal, but we're not going to get many Friday night games next year, besides Good Friday, I don't think. And that's fair enough. We haven't won enough games, so over the course of the period. But Essendon will be the dream fixture round 1, or even a Port Adelaide at home as well next year, with the Jason Francis thing as well. That's still going on, still lingering around a bit, but it would be nice for the supporters to get stuck into him a little bit, not go over the top, but play Port Adelaide round 1 as well at home. But
I was going to say
that would be
because last year you played Port down in Tasmania, so Horn Francis did not get the opportunity to come back to Melbourne and play the club at Marvel, because I'm sure it would be a very warm welcome for him. When he
I mean, a lot of emotion has gone out of it now. I mean, it's been
true.
Yeah,
that's true.
12, 18 months, but it was a big marketing opportunity this year. If we could have played them in Melbourne, we probably could have got a lot more supporters there. So, it is what it is. But Essendon round 1 would be ideal with Ben Mackay and Todd Goldstein going there as well. That would be, that would be good to play them.
That's a great point. I like that answer. So, even though we don't know anything about the fixture next year or anything of that nature, before we wrap up here, what club do you think that made the 8 this year could slide out next year, and what club that was not in the 8 this year do you think is going to make the jump into the 8 next year?
That's so such a subjective thing, because every year there's always a surprise team. Like the Western Bulldogs, I would have had for top 5 or 6. They're at the crossroads at the moment. It could be anyone, like a GWS could easily fall out, but they could easily do a Collingwood and win a premiership next year too. So a lot goes on, injuries. But if everyone it's a level playing field. If a team had to go outside of the 8 and come in, I would have to think it'd be the Bulldogs. To be honest with you, there's just too much talent there for them not to be making finals and really, pushing for a premiership. A team going out of the 8, I could see Port Adelaide really slipping. To be honest with you, I think like I mentioned earlier, winning is a habit, and they went on a real big winning streak. And outside of that, they really struggled. Finals, they weren't that great. They got they lost to went out in straight sets, I should say. So they're a club that I could easily see falling out of the 8, to be honest with you.
And I know several Roos supporters or several Crows supporters that would not mind that in the least. If that was the case to be. And it was not long after they signed that contract extension with Ken Hinckley that they kind of went on that little bit of a skid as well. So there were already rumblings that were happening, like, are we sure we made the right decision by bringing him back for a couple more years? Because the discussion, was certainly about that at that point in time. He was going to maybe have, if whatever jobs had come available, he might have had his choice of a job. He might have been able to just rebuff Port Adelaide and say, no, this position's open over here, I'm going to go here instead. If there had been an opening somewhere else, he could have decided to go on to another spot had one been open. But of course, there were not many opportunities there, because there were because there were rumblings about whether or not Chris Scott was even going to come back to the Cats. I mean, there was discussion that he may be ready to step aside, and I'm kind of glad that he's not, of course, but purely selfish reasons. But I'll shout it from the rooftops everywhere. I didn't even have Collingwood in the top 8 this year. And I got, because as you mentioned earlier, that this was a club that, won all those close games back in 2022. And I just thought they're not going to get all that luck again in 2023. And they didn't need the luck. They just went out and won by wider margins. And just, made me look like a fool. And they played phenomenal footy from, the opening game of the season. But, I really am excited to see where the Roos are going to be in a couple of years. And again, that the growing process, the growth that's going to take place over the next couple of years as this list comes together, and hopefully the draft capital that they have and that they utilize does come to fruition and is able to be a cohesive unit that can start stringing some games together, I think it bodes well for them going forward. Again, next year, as you said, maybe not finals contention, but if they get to 8 or 9, 10 wins, I think that would probably be a great year for them at that point in time. Now, something I hadn't thought about, and when the new side comes in Tasmania in, I think 2027, they're talking about, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's
2027, 2028 or something like that.
Yeah.
Might be 2028. Yeah.
Is kind of the contract or the setup with Hawthorn and the Roos playing games in Tasmania, will that end at that point in time?
Yeah, I think I would have to think so, to be honest with you. Yeah, because obviously, there's not a market for us or Hawthorn anymore. I'm not too sure what's going on there, because there was a lot of protests about the stadium rebuild over there, but I haven't heard much about that in the last few months. As far as I know, the club's still going ahead in 2028. Now, if they don't have a stadium, if they can't build one, then they're not going to have a club. But at least the AFL took their time with this one as well. We'll probably lose a few players as well, like a lot of other teams that with Tasmanian prospects coming through that will probably go over there as well. So, it's all part of it.
That's a great point about Tasmanian athletes who might want to find themselves in a position to go play, if the club does come to fruition, to be on that first Tasmanian club in the AFL. I wonder if that is something that would, if you had a young player who might be a first round pick, if that person would slide back in the draft, possibly because a club would be worried about losing them in 3 or 4 years, having put that kind of an investment into a number 12 pick or something like that, only to lose them within a few years. Of course, then they might just get draft compensation back from the league, because as you said, they tend to just hand that stuff out if you ask for it nicely. But which
pretty much.
Yeah. And I was going to mention, I know there's a lot of people in Australia that follow the NBA. And I actually pulled up this article here before we go, because I was going to and I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes, but the Cleveland basketball team, the Cavaliers, LeBron James played for them for a number of years. They had a guy who owned the team back in the 1980s by the name of Ted Stepien, who almost destroyed the franchise, and the league actually had to implement a rule because of him, because he kept trading first round draft picks for marginal players at best. And he did it in like the course of over like 5 straight years. So the Cavs went like 5 years in a row where they did not have a first round draft pick. And they had a bunch of crappy players that were brought in and didn't stay with the team all that long. And the league actually changed the rule. And if you follow the NBA now, that teams are not allowed to trade first round picks in consecutive years. So they have to ensure that they have at least like a first, if they traded a pick in 2024, they can't trade the 2025 pick. They could trade 26, but that Stepien rule came in because of this guy. And when he sold the team, the 2 brothers that actually bought the team, the league actually, they didn't give them to him, but they actually sold like first round draft picks to them to try to help stabilize the team. So, it's, the idea of getting compensation like this it's not novel to the AFL. It happened in the NBA because this guy almost single-handedly destroyed an entire franchise. He may have been a great businessman, but he was an idiot when it came to owning a professional sports team.
You get a lot of those types of owners over there. I think Michael Jordan's one of the worst owners in the NBA. He's just his vision and thinking with the Charlotte Hornets has been one of the worst. He's very much running it like a business. He wants to obviously make money and just try and get the team to the 8th seed, and that's quite the opposite way that you should be running a basketball organisation. I do remember that Stepien rule. But a lot of teams can trade on draft night, that draft pick as well. So it sort of defeats the purpose of it as well.
Absolutely. Well, Dean, before I let you go, where can people find your podcast? And you're going to be doing some coverage during the trade period as well?
Yeah, it definitely will be. I'm basically, I mean, you can find it on all good podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to. Obviously, I don't think Stitcher's around anymore.
Nope.
No, so but there's any podcast platform you can use. It's on there. I'm pretty much covering the women's at the moment who are flying. I'll be doing a little bit of that, and obviously, over the next couple of weeks, we'll be covering the trade period. Just with the odd episode here and there. So I'd probably do 2 or 3 episodes a week, depending on time. At the moment, it's mainly just covering the women's football.
Okay. And if people want to follow you on social media, where can they do that?
Yeah, X, or it's X now, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's hashtag Kangaroos. Instagram, hashtag Kangaroos podcast, or TikTok, hashtag Kangaroos1. Any of those platforms.
All right.
I mainly use X. So, yeah.
Okay. So last thing, we're going to put you in charge of the trade period for the Roos. Okay. Tell us the ideal deal that you would do, that you would love to see happen. If you, or you're going to stand pat. What are you going to do? And the club is going to go, brilliant.
Well, I'd probably look at the Gold Coast pick 4. I mean, obviously they're looking at points, so I'll try and accumulate those points. Like we've got a number of draft picks in the 30s or 40s. Obviously pick 19 as well. So try and and even next year as well. So try and get rid of a number of picks that are later, and try and get pick 4. Obviously, try and get more quality into the club. So if we can get pick 3 for Ben McKay, pick 2, 3, or 4, you get 3 elite youngsters. That's all I'd want to do.
Yeah.
Then that'd be the ideal trade period. And obviously getting Zach Fisher and Dylan Stevens in to help the club around the edges,
and the young man from Glenelg that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, Toby Pink. I don't know much about him. I tried to look up highlights or anything like that. I looked up his stats. They weren't overly impressive, but apparently he's quite a good one-on-one defender. So
okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, defenders, you're not always going to get really good stats. I guess. No. I guess if you can find that the 1%er column for a defender, that might be a good stat to look at. Yeah. Well, hey, folks, my guest has been Dean Vasic from hashtag Kangaroos. And Dean, I appreciate you getting up early this morning, sir, and chatting with me. And looking forward to continued green shoots with this club. It's a, it seems like a really, quality organization. I really have enjoyed, following the team president on social media with everything she's gone through, and the tumult, as we talked about earlier, before we went on air here, that went on with the club with Clarko here. And I'm, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing progress with this club this year. And I think we're going to definitely see more wins than we saw in 2023. I don't think you're going to get that 20-game losing streak again.
Oh, let's hope so. That'll be ideal. So we'll see how we go. But no, thanks very much for having me on, Craig. I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work with the podcast. And if you're coming down next year to Melbourne, let me know, and we'll go to a game if you like.
Absolutely, I would love that. That's why I was hoping to get the fixture as soon as possible, because I've been thinking that I would love to make the drive to Adelaide to go see a game at the Adelaide Oval, but then. Somebody mentioned something the other day on social media, and I got thinking about it. Somebody took a picture of the ferry boat leaving Geelong and heading to Tasmania. And I thought, let me check into that, because maybe there'd be an opportunity to go visit Tasmania, 2 birds, 1 stone kind of a thing. Go see a game, maybe at Blundstone or, down in Hobart, go see the Hawks or the Roos play down there. Be ideal if the Cats went to go play down there against one of them. I don't know if they would send the Cats down there to play the Hawks. I don't know if they would do that, but I don't know the last time the Cats have actually played in Tasmania, quite frankly. But it'd be kind of neat just to see that island, because from everything that I've read and the images that I've seen, the landscape of that island is unlike most of the rest of Australia, and it just would be really neat to be able to say that I did get there. I was supposed to go there when I was in the Navy back in the 1980s, but coincidentally enough, the Iran-Iraq war broke out instead. So our ship never did. We were supposed to go to Sydney, to Perth, and to Hobart. We did not get to any of them.
So, yeah.
Man. Oh, this is your opportunity, maybe. So yeah,
I'm hoping. So I explored the ferry boat and looked at it. Looked like, getting a cabin for there and back, it would be around $400 to do that for the cabin to and from Tasmania. And I don't know what it would be to fly, but it just kind of be neat to take the overnight boat there, just to kind of experience that. So I'm really looking forward to doing the planning for this once it comes to fruition and the fixture comes out, and I can figure out, okay, this is the block of time where I'm going to try to go. Let's see where I can get the most bang for my buck. Because again, I want to go see local footy as well. I mean, I know I had a club of the episode last week. As a club in Tasmania that they play their games on gravel, not on grass. They've been playing on gravel for a century. I would love to go see a game at that field, if you want to call it a field. But that would just, and I think it's on the western edge of Tasmania, if I'm not mistaken. And Tasmania is a big island. It's not a tiny island. It's not something you're gonna get from some place to another place in an hour and a half. You're gonna driving for a while to get to wherever you need to go. But I'm just starting to explore and starting to figure out, what do I want to try to see while I'm there. And I joked with my wife. I said, someday maybe I want to just drive that entire circular route all the way around the entire continent. Maybe after I retire. And she said, you're nuts. And I said, well, you knew that when you married me. So,
fair enough.
Well, hey, I hope you have a fantastic week. Okay.
Yep. You too, Craig. One thing you can do is there's usually a game at Marvel in the afternoon, and there's a game at the MCG, which is only about 15 minutes up the road, during the night. So you can do two in one day with doing that as well. So yeah.
Don't tell Richmond that, okay? Don't tell them that it's that. Don't tell them that they're that close, okay? They, Damien Hardwick does not need to hear that. And quite frankly, I hope, as now the Gold Coast senior coach, I hope that regardless of who they play, I hope that Richmond and Gold Coast play one another at Marvel next year. I hope AFL House, if you are listening, please schedule Richmond and Gold Coast at Marvel, just because I want to hear him complain about that.
Yeah, probably would, knowing him. He certainly has been doing a fair bit of that last probably year or two. But that's all part of it. But thanks for having me on, Craig. I really appreciate it. And I'll probably do a preview with you in the next few months as well when the season starts ramping up.
Once we know who's playing where. Absolutely. I look forward to it.
No, sounds good, Craig. Good on you.
Cheers.
Thanks, mate. Good on you.
All right, Dean. Hey, thanks so very much for your time, man. I truly appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. As I think I mentioned during the discussion there, I think I probably did tip the Roos a few too many times this year. I just thought they were going to get their act together. I think they are ascending, though. I think the glass is maybe not quite half full yet, but it is starting to trickle in there a little bit. And I believe this draft is going to be the one that in 6 or 7 years, maybe as Clarko has brought a premiership to North Melbourne, could certainly happen. This may be the draft that supporters look back at and say, this is the one that brought us that cup, because we put so many pieces together during this draft. Again, I don't know if they're going to make the deal for Harley Reid or not. As much as it would be wonderful to have him there, I think that maybe they've been snake bit a little bit after what happened with Jason Horne-Francis. Although Harley Reid is a local talent who wouldn't necessarily likely be wanting to travel back out of state once he's already at home. But it's going to be a very interesting draft to see what happens with North Melbourne, and I think that this is going to be one that if you're a Roos supporter, you can't help but be ecstatic about the prospects of where this club is going to be, hopefully in just a couple of years. So, folks. Again, Dean, thanks for coming on. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit down and chat. Ladies and gentlemen, please look out for one another. Check up on your friends. Make sure they're okay. Reach out to them. Ask them if they're okay. There's just so much despair that's going on in the world today. Just make sure your friends are okay. And if you need to talk to somebody, please reach out. In my show notes, in every episode, I have the numbers for things like Beyond Blue to reach out and call. Also ones here in the United States as well. Please reach out and talk to somebody, whether it's them, it's a friend. Get out and have that coffee. Go out and have that that beer, whatever you need to do to, and go talk things out if you need to do that. Okay. I know that this past month there was the big push for Talktober in Australia. And hopefully if you've needed to do that, you'll do that. Now, again, remember, folks, you can find everything related to my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. You can reach me by email to ayankonthefooty@gmail.com, at @yank_on on Twitter or X, Yank on the Footy podcast over on Facebook, a Yank on the Footy on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. Just look for Craig Wessels. You can find me as Craig Wessels on Facebook as well. If you want to help out the podcast, as I mentioned, you can click on that Buy Me a Coffee button over on my website, or you can check out the store page. I do have the, I think a year early, the Lockie Neal winning his second Brownlow, poking a little fun at the whole situation with Patrick Cripps back in 2022. If you enjoy the podcast, I do hope you'll also leave a review. That would be a huge help. Okay. That'd be a huge help if you wanted to do that. And I still have some of those podcast stickers. So if you leave me a review, leave me a great review, send me a note, let me know that you've done that so I can drop one in the mail to you. Okay. Because I'd love to get that out there for you folks. I appreciate the kind words as always. It's been a couple of weeks since I've had an interview episode out. I did that short one about the NRL while I was out on the road last week. I do have an iron in the fire as kind of a rebuttal to that one. I've not had a confirmation on that one yet, but I did reach out to somebody who knows somebody. I mentioned him at the beginning of this episode. And again, Barry, happy anniversary. I'm hoping that one will come to fruition. But ladies and gentlemen, again, I appreciate the kind words. And as always, may your dribble kick never hit that post. I will catch you later. And this has been episode 294 of A Yank on the Footy. Thanks for listening. And I do hope you'll consider sharing this episode with your friends and family. And if you're on YouTube, I do hope you'll hit that subscribe button as well. Leave me a comment. I do love reading the comments. And I do love reaching back out to you. I've seen a huge uptick in my subscriptions over on YouTube. Now, again, small fish, massive pond, but I'm up over 180 subscribers, which if you'd have told me that 6 months ago when I believe I had 23, I'd have thought you were nuts. Now, 180 subscribers is not much of anything, but for me, it's a step in the right direction. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here now, and cheers. Hope you have a fantastic day.